Hey guys, Daniel here. This is another video. My next guest, it's safe to say he needs no introduction. It is the legendary Jamie Delano. He's a comic book writer and he's also a novelist, gotten to work on various different comic books. Some of you may recognize him for his work on Hellblazer. He's the first ever writer to work on Hellblazer, aka everyone's favorite John Constantine. And he's also gotten to work on comic books such as Captain Britain, 2000 AD on characters such as DR and Quinch, Doctor Who, Animal Man, Outlaw Nation, World Without End, Hell Eternal, Man Bat, 2020 Visions, Narcopolis, The Horrorist, and he's also gotten to write some amazing books, such as Book 13, Leepus Dizzy, and much more. But Jamie has very kindly agreed to come on for an interview. Like I said, all it took was a lot of blackmail. But Jamie, thank you so much for coming on. How are you doing today?
I'm great. You promised to let my grandchildren out of the basement now, do you?
Well, listen, we'll see how it goes. Towards the end of the interview, I'll have an answer for you. Provided that you're snappy with the answers, well, then, you might get to see your grandkids again. No promises, though.
I'll sharpen up.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much for coming on. So many different things I want to discuss. But so let's just first get into the basics of writing. How did you get into writing? Were you a fan of books or comics growing up, or?
I was a fan of books. Certainly wasn't particularly a fan of comics. I mean, when I was I don't know, 10-year-old or something like that, I read the regular comics that boys of my age and generation did, which was, Victor and Valiant and Look and Learn, things like that. But comics was, I could take it or leave it, to be honest, by the time I was 15. But my big love was reading novels, basically. I haunted the library for most of my life when I was younger, and went along the shelves with my fingertips feeling the books to see which ones I wanted to read, because somehow I believed that some kind of osmosis would tell me whether a book was worth reading or not, the weight of it, the feel of it, and it worked. And I read some great stuff. But it wasn't, I mean, I was kind of one of those people that thought from an early age, I think I want to be a writer. I think I want to be a novelist.
Yeah.
But I was also one of those people that was too damn bone idle to do anything about it. I mean, I wrote a few plays with friends on a sort of amateur level, and poetry, angst-ridden teenage poetry, the kind of thing. We all go there from time to time. And then a good friend of mine growing up was Alan Moore. And he was a lot more vigorous in his pursuit of a career in writing than I was at that stage, and got himself established. And one day, I was a taxi driver at the time. He said to me, "Jamie, you could do this." And I said, "Do you think so?" Not knowing about comics. And he said, "Yeah, I reckon you could." And he got me an introduction to an editor at Marvel UK. And I started by writing the Night Raven prose stories, taking over from Alan when he finished those, to move on to other things. And then I moved on to write Captain Britain. And the rest is history, as they say. But no, comics. I mean, I learned to really appreciate the medium over the years of working in it. But it wasn't comics themselves. I just wanted to earn a living being a writer, and it took me until I was nearly 30 before I was able to do that. So I had a lot of other jobs before then. But no, that was how it went. Purely accidental comic writer, really. If somebody had offered me a chance writing film scripts, maybe I'd have been writing movies.
I'm sure opportunities like that just come from the sky everywhere we go. I've yet
tripping over them.
I've yet to get an offer for anything like that. I figure it's just a matter of time. It's just I'm walking in the wrong places, obviously.
Give it time.
Alan Moore has yet to jump out and offer me a job, but I figure it's because I'm not walking or in the right roads. I'll just give it a bit of time. But yeah, absolutely.
That's it. You got to be in the right town. You got to go to the right school. Mind you, all that nepotism is so 70s. We don't do that anymore, do we? Everybody has to do it for themselves these days, otherwise they get pilloried. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh no, you're fine. And so, like, growing up, were there any particular authors or any specific books you love? And I know that's like an impossible question because you're going to give us a list. But was there any particular things you loved back then?
So, I was a science fiction reader. Science fiction was my sort of first love. Everything from I can't can't even think of the names now. There's so many of them, you know, all the sort of 60s, 70s science fiction stuff. That was it. But then, you know, I mean, William Burroughs was always one of my favorite writers. And I enjoyed the Beat Generation writers, Kerouac, all of those sorts of people, the 40s, 50s crime writers, you know, sort of Dashiell Hammett, Jim Thompson, people like that. You know, I read so much, to be perfectly honest. You know, I've hardly looked at a book since, to be honest. I just crammed stuff in, just read it from dawn till dusk, because, you know, in the 60s there was damn all else to do, to be perfectly honest, unless you wanted to watch black and white TV or something like that. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I imagine,
it wasn't really a multimedia world then.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I imagine, like, reading a lot of books, I imagine that really helped you become a writer, because obviously when you're, you know, introduced to this whole kind of new type of media and constantly finding out more, reading more books, did that all, would you say, helped you in terms of writing?
It can't do anything but help. I mean, you're just, if you want to work with words, expose yourself to as many words as you possibly can, and in as many different orders and styles and tones as are available to you. And it, you know, I didn't necessarily go about it thinking that, you know, I'm doing this in order to prepare myself for a career as a writer. I did it because I love reading, and I love being transported to other worlds and seeing the world through other people's imaginations and eyes and things like that. But all that stuff is going in, it's all sinking into your subconscious. And eventually when you come to write yourself, you're going to draw on all of that without necessarily realizing it. The trick is to, you know, not just regurgitate what somebody else has done or copy somebody else's style, but, you know, you have to develop your own voice. That's the most important thing about writing, I think, is to have a unique voice. But, you know, you've got to stand on the shoulders of giants, as they say. You know, all those who've gone before you have added to that sort of mad cacophony of words that's floating around in the universe. And it's your job then to sort of add a few more in your own voice and hope that one day somebody will read them and use them to help inspire them to write something themselves and to find their own voices.
Absolutely, yeah, you just put it perfectly there. And so I know you want to start on Hellblazer. You know, how did this come about? You know, did Alan Moore point a gun to your head and said, do this book now? Or, you know, how did Hellblazer?
I think Alan might have put in a word for me. I mean, I'd done a couple of submissions of proposals for DC Comics prior to getting asked to write Hellblazer. You know, traditional dark, gritty superhero proposal type things, you know, and but I really knew nothing about superheroes or, you know, American mainstream comics in general, you know. And then Karen Berger was wanting to, you know, give John Constantine his own comic book series to feature in, and she was pretty adamant that she wanted a British writer to kick it off at the very least, because it's such an intrinsically British character, you know, Alan had developed and invented in Swamp Thing. And I guess Alan might have said somewhere along the way, well, see what Jamie can come up with. So Karen asked me to come up with a proposal for the first 12 issues of Hellblazer. And I managed a sort of sentence per issue kind of proposal, thinking, oh, I don't know, this probably isn't going to go anywhere, but we'll give it a go. And she liked it, or she, you know, trusted me enough to, you know, suggest that I did something with it. And so I did, thinking, well, maybe it'll last 12 months, maybe it won't, but we'll have a good go at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and it's still going, well, virtually still going, I think, some 300 odd issues later.
And I imagine your pitch for each issue was Constantine fights monster, new monster comes in the next issue, kills monster again. I assume that was it, was it?
Maybe. I probably wasn't, you know, I probably wasn't even as defined as that. I just had sort of a vague idea where we might set some stories. You know, I think the first two-parter, I sort of thought, you know, some kind of hunger demon, you know, we could do something with that. You know, there's social commentary there as well, a bit of politics, all of these things that are important to me in my writing. And I thought, Vietnam, that might be useful. You know, there might be something there that I could spin a sort of horror story. I mean, I never set out to be a horror writer. I just wanted to be a writer. But Hellblazer was obviously in the horror genre. So I guess I had to find a way to slot into that. So, you know, I wasn't sort of thinking monsters from the word go. I was thinking character. I mean, the character of John Constantine is my way into it. You know, I wanted to find out who John Constantine actually was, because
Yeah.
in Alan's incarnation of him, he was, you know, there was depth to him, but he was kind of a cipher.
Yeah.
And I thought, there's no way I can sustain that for more than a couple of issues. We've got to start digging into his psyche a little bit, and, you know, sort of learning who this weird character is actually, and, you know, his weaknesses and his strengths and his flaws, moral flaws, and so on. I wanted to just inhabit him, and so I did for 4 years, and it nearly killed me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that's what everyone says coming off any comic book for DC.
Coming off of John Constantine.
Yeah, just John Constantine,
and he hasn't altered your psyche, or, you know, put some dark kink in you.
Sometimes you see him when you close your eyes.
You're not doing it right. For years, the last thing I thought of at night before I fell asleep was John Constantine. The first thing I thought of in the morning was the same. It gets quite obsessive at times.
That's a charm of
John. Give it up after a while.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so is there a bit of freedom attested? Because before Hellblazer, like, John only really appeared in Swamp Thing, maybe a few other stuff, I'm not sure. So did you feel as if there's a bit of freedom getting to write for the character Constantine, even though he's already, like, you know, pre-created, you could still kind of have fun with it? Or did you feel like, okay, this is like something that I have to get right? Or did you feel any sort of freedom attested there?
I didn't really think about it, to be honest. I just sort of got on with it.
Perfectly put, yeah.
In those days, it was sitting in front of a flickering green Amstrad screen with a dot matrix printer at your side, and, well, the first Hellblazer scripts I wrote were written on a manual portable typewriter.
Oh wow!
Didn't even have word processors back then, so it was, you know, typing away and carbon copy duplicates with Tipex and all the rest, and then FedEx them off to America and so on, and then we got what was that thing called? Can't even remember what the technology is called now. Faxing, that's right, faxing.
Yeah, yes.
We started faxing things over, and then it was FedEx, and then lo and behold, computers and the online world.
Yeah,
so everything became a lot swifter, and, you know, you couldn't say, "Oh, it's in the post; it will be with you soon. I've finished it. You know, it's on its way." Honest.
And you were still writing it as you were sending.
You're still writing it while you're saying that, but of course, when the internet came into being and everything was instantaneous, that excuse doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, no,
freedom. I mean, working with Karen Berger was a dream. I mean, as long as she trusted you and you turned the stuff in on time and she thought you were doing good work, you did what you wanted.
Yeah.
Pretty much. You know, there wasn't a huge amount of pressure coming back editorially to go a certain way or conform to this, you know, prerequisite, etc. No, it was great in those days.
Yeah.
So definitely. I just sort of went where it took me, where Constantine took me, for better or worse.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, like, over 4 years, do you think over time you got a better grasp of the character, like you understood him more, or was it like from the very start you kind of, you know, comprehended who this character was very quickly? Yeah,
I did started to understand him. As writing a character like that, you've really got to just sort of slip into his shoes or trench coat and, you know, smoke his cigarettes and, you know, just be there and sort of. Yeah, it came, you know, I did understand him. I mean, this is a part of me, you know, because I'm, you know, you find a certain part of yourself that will animate that particular character. You know, if you're writing another character, you find a different part of yourself. But there must be a little dark corner of my soul that works Constantine, you know, that you know, he lives there. So I have to go in that cupboard and get him out and be him for the period that I'm working with. You know, and I've always felt that in the you know, the succeeding years, whenever I've gone back and done the odd little Constantine jaunt here and there, it's like slipping on the train, the old smelly trench coat again. Yeah, you know, and oh, here we are again. You know. Yeah, and I assume, John? All right, mate. You know, I assume you go full method and like you dress yourself in a trench coat with a little cigarette. Someone comes and says, "It's for work, okay? It's for work." Like you're just dressed in a John Constantine costume for no reason. Just sitting there in my tiny little room. Yeah, I mean, I would have smoked myself silly without any influence from Constantine. Yeah, already there, but you know. You charge the cigarettes for you charge the cigarettes to DC and you let them pay it off. Work expense. But yeah, absolutely. So another question I have for you, and a lot of things, one of my last Constantine questions is that you do consider Constantine like an anti-hero, a good guy, a bad guy, because there's kind of a lot of, you know, debate about this. And, you know, where does his,
Yeah, where does his loyalty stand?
People
Because it's
debate
like,
that sort of thing.
at the end of the day, he is a good guy, but he does, I mean, he will do anything that takes to kind of save people. And so I guess you can see it there, but do you consider him an anti-hero or a good guy, or what's your take on that?
I just consider him to be somebody who's trying to do his best for humans. He's on the side. He's on the side of the human beings, basically.
Yeah.
There's angels and there's demons and there's humans, and the angels and the demons screw up the world of the humans all the time. So Constantine's in there fighting their corner. He's the representative of humanity, and he'll do what he can to get people through.
Yeah.
And that's how I see him. So whether that's anti-heroic or heroic or just a good guy doing the best he can, but at the same time, he can be a complete prick.
Yeah, definitely.
He's a complicated person.
Definitely.
There's lots of facets to his character, and different writers will illuminate different of those facets. But yeah, I've got a real soft spot for the guy. I think Garth Ennis took against him after a while. He kind of decided he didn't like John Constantine. He wasn't really an admirable sort of person, and he didn't want to write him anymore. Whereas I kind of think, he's doing his best. He's not perfect. Nobody is.
Yeah.
And sometimes he screws up badly and people get hurt. But he's going to try.
Yeah, definitely. And I actually had on Peter Milligan, who's another Hellblazer writer, a few months ago. And when I asked him about Constantine, he said the advice he received, and pardon my French, was to write John Constantine as a bastard. But he said he never saw it that way. He said, no, I don't think that's really the character. So it's interesting to see you both have that take. Like, a lot of people may look at
good for Pete. I'll agree with Pete there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you both look at the character saying, no, he's not necessarily that. He's just trying, in a world that's weighing him down. He's trying. And so it's a fun for you to kind of explore that morality of John Constantine. And because what I noticed in your works, not only is it really action packed, but you do get to explore John a lot, which I think you do a brilliant job. And I noticed that's in all your works. Like, you have a great understanding of the characters. So was it important for you to kind of explore John as a character?
Sorry, we froze then for a moment and I missed your question.
Yeah, my internet connection just popped up there. Sorry, can you hear me okay now?
I can hear you fine now.
That's the Dublin Wi-Fi for you. But the question I was going to ask you, was it like for you to get to explore the morality of John Constantine? Because we do see, a lot in the comics that, maybe he's not the best person, but he does try his best. And I think that's all you can really do. And I thought that's really interesting because, you can see all these little facets of the character. And what I noticed in your work is that you do a brilliant job exploring the characters. And not only are your issues action packed, they also do a great job exploring specific characters. And so exploring like a character like John, was that important for you? Did you really want to show who this character was and kind of exploring him over time? Was it fun for you to explore that character?
Yeah, well, to me, that was kind of what the job was. That's what writing is. I'm not there to, I don't think that the function of fiction is to, sort of fly any banners for any particular level of morality or immorality or whatever. Yeah. I'm there to try to let the reader into this particular world and to give them as much intimacy with that world as is possible for them to achieve. Do want to explore what's going on inside the character so that my reader can explore it with me. I kind of see how writing for me, I often describe it as you kind of set your character, you find there's a scenario within which you set your characters walking and talking. And the writer's job is to write down the good bits. Snappy lines, not just the boring everyday conversations and journeys and things like that, but just pick out the interesting bits that that illuminate the character and the situation that you're putting them in. That's what engrosses me. And if I'm not interested and engrossed in the thing that I'm writing, then there's slim chance that anybody reading it is going to be. Yeah. So I have to go my own way. I don't like sort of working to a schematic, if you like.
Yeah, definitely.
I like the opportunity. Say, for example, I suddenly wanted to maybe John Constantine would suddenly think, God, I've been doing it all wrong. I should be a monk. I want to be free. I want to be free to be able to take him into the monastery and confront him with the hair shirts or whatever the hell it is that they do in those places.
Don't give your ideas away.
A ridiculous example, but what I mean. I just whatever comes to me is what I want to be able to do. And if somebody says you can't do that, then I'm not going to be interested. So
definitely, yeah. And now I know we never saw Constantine riding a train or something, or an issue, or just getting a cup of tea for no reason.
Unless it was a ghost train or something. Yeah.
Ghost train, absolutely. But yeah, and so is it also important for you, because like you said, you also touched on like political aspects. It's important for you to also like integrate all of that into your story, and like also like integrating supernatural. And like you said, you're not particularly a horror writer, but it was important for you to like, you know, integrate all these different themes and ideas into your stories.
Yeah, well, it's my experience of the real world that fuels me as a writer. You know, the things that excite me or upset me or anger me, then I'm going to try and put that into the characters that I'm writing about. So yes, the politics is important. I was, you know, I grew up in, you know, the Thatcher era was when we kicked off Constantine, basically, and that was a big deal for me. You know, this sort of neoliberal revolution that was, you know, really pissing me off and pissing off a lot of my contemporaries. You know, so yes, there was going to be some kickback against that, but really Constantine just, he maneuvers through the real world. You know, he's got a birthday. You know, we know when he was born. He was born in 1953, so now he's 68 years old. Whatever stupid ass stuff they do with him, you know, in these kiddie Constantine comics. You know, he's actually an old man now, like me. You know, and so he goes through change. You know, to the way I see it, he's gone through a lot of sort of changes. We all go through changes as we get older. We, you know, I'm not the same person I was when I was 30.
Definitely.
John Constantine certainly isn't. If I went back to him now, it'd be different to the way that I wrote him in 1988. You know, it's
definitely. You just you put it absolutely perfectly there. And so before I want to touch on some of your books, that they're brilliant. And my last Constantine question: have you seen the films and like the TV shows? Do you have any thoughts on new Constantine media? Or
I saw the film, the Keanu Reeves film when it came out. Two totally different characters sharing a name. Was kind of how I'd describe that. The only good bit in it was when the demon, was it a demon, ripped off Chaz's head for a basketball hoop. That character was such an anathema. It was so nothing like Chaz that I was so happy when they dispatched him. But other than that, no, I mean, the film was weird. There was a few sort of straight lifts from the early comics in terms of, you know, scenes. There's one where he's trapping a cockroach under a glass and blowing smoke. I don't think he blew the smoke under it in the film because they were too squeamish to do that. But you know, so that kind of feels weird, you know, something that, as I say before, I sat there in a smoke-filled room in a flickering green Amstrad screen typing this stuff out, and then 10 years later or 20 years later, whatever it was, you go to the cinema and there it is, wall to wall. Think, oh, this don't feel right.
Absolutely.
I didn't see the TV series. Purely because I didn't like the film, and I thought, if you haven't got something good to say about something, it's best not to have to say anything. And if you haven't watched it, then you can't say anything. So I didn't watch it, but I did hear a lot of good reports of it from people who had watched it. So I'm gratified by that. They said it was a lot more like Constantine than the Keanu Reeves incarnation. So I appreciate, someone also pointed out that they're a little tip of the hat to me. There was a location in one of the shows, number 4 Delano Street or something like that. I didn't see it, so I can't, you know, verify if that's true or not, but apparently it was there, so that was nice of them.
Absolutely.
But that's all. I'm a bit weird, particularly these days. I don't see many comics or any other media, because like I was saying earlier, I pumped so much stuff into my psyche when I was younger, and then spent quite a few decades regurgitating it and getting it all back out there. So these days I find it really hard to watch new stuff all the time. I do every so often. I have a couple of months with a Netflix subscription and try and catch up on some things, and I get sick and tired to death of trying to thumb through it, find something that's worth watching.
Definitely.
You notice when you're looking for something on Netflix or Prime or whatever to watch, the thing that really stops me watching any of it is all those blurbs.
Yes,
the
yes.
blurbs are so crass. I think they must be trying to convince me not to watch this because it sounds so shit. So I oblige them and don't watch it.
You're very generous. You're very generous. Have you gotten to read any of the, Cy Spurrier, Constantine, or anything?
Now, Cy Spurrier, I have, and I really like what Cy did with it.
Yeah, wow.
Him and artist's name,
Aaron Campbell.
Aaron Campbell. They did a great job.
Yeah,
they did a really good job on it. I haven't read everything that everybody's ever written in the Constantine.
What?
Hellblazer
I assume
series.
that's your job. You just read it all in a dark room.
Yeah. No. I read quite a bit of Garth's and enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Although he did turn him into a Guinness drinking, shouty sort of person.
I was about to ask you, what does Constantine in your mind drink? Is it gin and tonic or Guinness?
Gin and tonic.
Oh, well, you're arguing with an Irishman here, but I'll let you have this. You're the only one who has written him, so I'll take that as canon.
Guinness is awful, man. Why would anybody want to drink that stuff?
No, I disagree. I love Guinness. Actually, I wouldn't know.
You're Irish.
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know anything about.
Of course,
Guinness.
you wouldn't know.
For any of my parents or teachers watching, I wouldn't. But for Jamie, yeah, Guinness is great, top notch stuff.
No, that was my big my big gripe with Garth's take.
You're just
suddenly he was swearing in foot high red letters across the page and swilling Guinness,
Yeah, you sent a very angry email to DC saying, "What is this? What is this?"
No, I just held my counsel.
Yeah, absolutely.
This was a new phase of John Constantine, and Garth's a great writer.
I mean,
he does some great stuff.
I
haven't read much of the other stuff, but every so often I dipped in, I just sort of say, oh, I wonder what they're doing with him now, and sometimes I think, oh, that's nice. And sometimes I shiver a bit and think, no, I wouldn't say that. And then you have to bite your tongue and you say, well, you don't own the character, Jamie.
Yeah.
He does what they say he does now. And this is who John Constantine is in the hands of this writer, coming from his imagination.
Yeah.
And that's all
so has there ever been
completely fair, But yes, no, I haven't watched it all, and I can't remember why we got onto that now anyway. So
yeah, absolutely. And so has there ever been an actor or anything you thought would have just been a perfect Constantine, or you kind of lackadaisy about? Have you ever been watching someone say he would have been good, or do you have any actors in mind, or are you just kind of, you don't really mind?
Latterly, I've thought David Thewlis.
Yes. Oh, he'd be fantastic.
Would make a great Constantine, especially after I saw him in that Fargo.
Yeah, was he in Fargo?
Yeah, he was.
Oh.
One of them. Can't remember what they're called even, but I'm sure he was. So I did think him.
And I hope he just drinks Guinness for the whole 2.5 hours.
Yeah, of course.
I hope that's how it. No story. It's just him sitting there with a pint, and then he says, so good." He just looks at the camera every couple of seconds.
Sitting there with his pint of Guinness and his knife or fork, trying to get into it. Yeah. Stuff.
Oh, you're a cruel man, Jamie. I'll give you that now. That's grand. Absolutely. And so, coming off that, I want to touch on your novel work. It's like you've written some fantastic books. I want to touch on, how did you make that transition from comics into novels? Because I know you sort of growing up, books was like your main dream. It was your goal. If you could do books, you'd be delighted. So how did books come about? When did
it was, I sort of kind of drifted, started to find myself a bit of an uneasy fit with the comics world. I'd done all the things that you kindly listed at the beginning there. And then coming into the 2000s, I'd started to sort of get a bit sporadic and I couldn't really think of anything I wanted to do for DC. After Outlaw Nation finished, I got a bit grumpy because I didn't really want it to finish where it finished. I'd have liked it to carry on being a much longer saga that I could develop into something,
I'd love to touch on Outlaw Nation in a bit. That was a fantastic series.
So I was going I'm a bit fed up with all of this, and then I thought, I'm 60, for Christ's sake. If I don't go on and write a novel soon, I may not get the chance. So after a few more years of prevarication, procrastination, I sat down and, actually wrote book 13, which was it's not at all autobiographical. Yeah, it is about an aging writer with a large unruly family and
who loves Guinness though, which was a bit weird.
The Guinness bit, that was fiction. But so I just enjoyed it. I just enjoyed being in charge of the whole process. Yeah. And then after I'd finished book 13, I thought, do I take it to a publisher? And I got cold feet, to be perfectly honest.
Wow.
I thought, I've been a comics writer all my life. Can I really write a novel? Is this going to be any good? Or is it just me, jamming and pretending, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I got a bit silly about it and thought, no, I'm not going to take it to a publisher. I'll damn well do it myself, because by that time it was possible to do it yourself. You can do print on demand publishing, you can, et cetera, et cetera. It's all there. All the software's available, and flies. You got flies going.
Yeah, I just saw one fly right over my computer there. I think, what is it?
I was talking to somebody on Zoom the other day, and there was a dog walking backwards and forwards in the background constantly. Which
Luckily, there's no dogs here. But if midway during the interview you see me go like that, you'll know why. You'll know why.
So yeah, anyway, so I decided to do it myself. So I thought, well, if I'm going to do that, why not just set up a little publishing imprint, which I decided to call Leepus Books, because I like hares. And that gave me the opportunity to invite a few other chums who would never really have a chance of, writing anything for a mainstream publisher or getting anything considered by a mainstream publisher, at least not in their, their first offerings, and give them a chance to get some books out as well and be a little bit of a publisher as well as a writer, So I quite enjoyed that and enjoyed the experience of editing their work for them and things. And book 13 was a bit of a one on its own, and I thought, well, maybe I ought to do something a little bit more genre. So I thought, near future dystopian, that's what everybody does, I'll do that. And so I started the Leepus character, and I've done 2 Leepus books so far, and I'm long overdue on the 3rd one of those.
Yeah,
and,
will we be getting the 3rd one soon? Is that
not soon, but you will get it.
Good way to be.
It's been a difficult few years. My wife's parents both died very close to one another, and we've been involved as executors in sorting the whole estate out, and it seems to have taken forever and they were ill first, and then we got all the legal shit to deal with. And that's just distracted me completely for the last few years, but I shall get back to it.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry to hear that. One. But yeah, looking forward to
it's when what happens in life. They were old,
Yeah, absolutely.
It was just we've got to deal with it, as you do.
Yeah. And so, like, I'd imagine there's a lot of freedom attested to writing your own books. So, you're not confined in any way. These are your characters. This is all you can do. So is that a nice change of pace? Not being fine, just getting to do your own thing, with your own characters.
Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, I've always been pretty footloose and fancy free, as it were, when it comes to the comics. I tended to go my own way. But yes, I mean, absolute freedom with a novel.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a little stage in my career where I was experimenting with film writing, and to me, and as soon as I got a chance to write a movie, I thought, that's great. No more size restrictions. I mean, comics is limited to your 24 pages a shot, kind of thing. And I always felt, it's too truncated. Why can't I just have another page, just to finish this off with the rhythm a little bit neater and more satisfying. So when it came to movies, I thought, oh, great, I'll be able to do that. No, you can't. It's just the same. You've got those time limitations. It all has to, it all has to fit. And
yeah, definitely.
Novel, no, it starts there and it finishes when you write the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And so,
so that's good.
So I imagine there's a huge difference between writing, a book and then writing like, a comic or a graphic novel. And do you notice the difference between writing those two?
Yeah, but at the same time, I found after I'd written the first Leepus book, I thought, in a way, this is all. I mean, my comic scripts they're not on the scale of an Alan Moore script. They're not three pages for every panel description kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I do kind of treat them as an art form in their own right. When I write a script, it's not just a tool. It is a tool. It has to be a tool to encourage the artist to to produce a story that has come from you and him. But what was I doing? The script. But to me, a script is a kind of a performance anyway. So when I write a script, I want to entertain the artist as well as inform and instruct them. And when I was writing the novels, I thought, in a way, this is almost a script without the pictures, without the art being applied to it. I write quite visually anyway.
Yeah.
but I don't know. It just struck me that I wasn't writing it. There was much more than words in my head. I wasn't dealing with concepts so much. I had the scenarios. It was all playing out. And as I said before, it's all playing out and you pick out the good bits. And then, again, as with Constantine, with my Leepus character, who is the lead in the, in the 2 Leepus novels, that's somebody who I can inhabit as well. There's big aspects of my own personality in there. I'm ashamed to admit.
Especially the Guinness drinking, which was very odd. Again,
Guinness stuff, yeah.
Your love for Guinness, it comes true.
Terrible brew. You just can't, once it's got a hold of you.
That's your love for it. I can see your Guinness poster in the background there. Your camera just cuts off there, so we can't see it. But yeah, absolutely. And so, out of all your books, is there a particular book that you've that's been your favorite to write or anything like that?
No, I like them all.
Yeah,
to be perfectly
and
honest.
did any of them take the longest, or how long did it take you to write each book?
I would say I never timed it.
I see you
going on for a year.
Yeah. Oh wow.
They take about a year. I mean, I'm a lazy son.
I can relate. I can very much.
It's hard to get me into the office. I mean, it's torture. Writing is sheer hell, as far as I'm concerned. It makes you very miserable sometimes, but at the same time, ecstatic when it all comes together. So it's one of those extreme sports. There's a lot of risk and angst involved, but at the same time, the payoffs are good. Emotionally and intellectually.
Yeah.
So I mean, my writing pattern would be I'd come and sit down in my study here, most 2 or 3 days a week, I suppose, and write. And then in the evening, when my brain is nicely lubricated and everything's quiet, everybody's gone to bed, then I'd get the day's writing out again and fiddle about with it for a couple of hours more until the small hours of the morning. And then,
absolutely.
So to me, the art of writing, some people just dash off a first draft in, a month or something like that, and then spend forever fiddling about with it afterwards. I'm the other way around. I tend to fiddle with it constantly as I'm going along. I'll write the first chapter, and then every day I'll go back to the first chapter, read it through, fiddle with a few things, then start the next chapter. So it's constantly reworking. It's constant sort of revision until I get within the home straight, and then that will stop. So I'm just charging for the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, do you have a favorite specific thing to write about, like a particular theme or tone, or is it all kind of neo-dystopian, like you just touched on there? Is that your favorite thing to write about, or is there anything
No, people are my favorite thing to write about. There's no point if the characters aren't interesting. I don't really care what they do. They only do things to inspire them, to have something to talk about and feel. It's not the plot that's interesting to me. When I write a novel, particularly, I might have a vague idea of what the book's going to be called, or maybe where it's a journey, isn't it? Writing a story is a journey, so I might know where I want it to end, and I also, by the time I've written the first paragraph, know where it's going to start. How are you going to get from start point to finish point? There's a million different routes you can take. So even if I sketch out an apparently optimum route and start following that, it's never going to last. I'm going to wander off. And then it's going to come in from a different angle, or something's just going to crop up out of the black hole of my imagination and be in the story that I've no idea why it's there until you get 10 chapters on, and you suddenly think, that's why that was there, because I need it now. So that's how the story kind of builds. Other people, like Moore, for example, he'll cover an entire wall of his house with little squares with what's happening in each panel and linking up to the next character. He's got it all mapped out in his planet-sized fucking brain.
I assume it's the same for you. Like, you just have a little wall on the opposite side. Like, we can't see it because of where your camera's positioned.
No, see, 'cause I don't have any of that. I don't
And
do
there's
that.
just bottles of Guinness everywhere for no reason, but it's all connected in your head.
Yeah,
Like,
bottle of Guinness and a huge schematic just over there.
of how to just desolate, how to get rid of Guinness from the planet. That's your plan, basically.
That'll do. Yeah, if you want to do that, that'll be great.
I didn't want to spoil your next story, but yeah, it's the Guinness tea coming soon. But yeah, absolutely. So getting to write books, like, has it been a nice change of pace for you moving on from comics? Like, is this something you really love to do, writing books?
Yeah, I do. I do love it. I mean, I really enjoy it. No, I don't. I hate writing. I just told you
that. Writing's hell, but having the work finished.
Utterly miserable. But I mean, I'm really lucky at the moment. I mean, my mortgage is paid off. My children are grown up. I haven't got a lot of expenses. I don't need a lot of money. I've got enough money, so I don't need to do any work. So what I do is purely by choice. I mean, that is a problem in its own right, in that somebody needs to force me to work. So
yeah.
If the bank account's empty and the kids are crying because they're hungry or something, then that'll get me to the keyboard to write something. If an artist's family is starving and they're waiting for my script before they can earn any money, that'll get me to the keyboard.
Yeah.
If everything's copacetic, everything's fine. Can I be bothered? I'll do it tomorrow. Kind of thing.
Yeah, that's my approach as well. I'll do it. The homework will do itself. I'll do it
that's
tomorrow.
Right. Yeah. So that is a problem, but no, just having that. Yeah. If there weren't other people around me, distracting me and finding nicer things for me to do than coming into my grubby little office,
definitely
the book, the books would get written a lot more quickly because it's more fun in my imagination than the real world a lot of times.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd rather,
especially in this second decade of the 21st century.
Yeah,
third decade.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
The appalling 21st century.
Well, sure, look, it can only get better, can't it? That's what I'll say.
No,
but it's,
sorry, I know you're young and you've got it all ahead of you.
Well, at least you're not cynical.
It cannot only get better; it can get a whole lot worse, and it's going to.
Thank you, Jamie. That's
just read one of those Leepus books. You'll see where it's going.
That's really, reintroduced my love for humanity. I can see the little hope glimmer.
Sorry, and all that.
No, I'm only messing around.
That's the Constantine coming through now.
Yeah, I can see it there. The trench coat slowly slips on.
This cheerful lad here, he's not getting away with that. It's not allowing him that optimistic.
That's your goal. You're just trying to crush me down piece by piece, strategically seeing my weak spots. But yeah, so you just touched on
into twisted, embittered.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Yeah. But so I also want to touch on a book you just brought up there, Outlaw Nation, which is a fantastic series, one of my favorite works. I believe you were with Glenn Fabry on that.
Thanks, I'm glad you enjoyed that.
It was brilliant. I
was really fond of that as well.
Yeah, and so how did that come about? Did you pitch that to Vertigo? Because it's such a great concept.
I think it was Stuart Moore, actually, editor at DC. You probably were familiar with. He's now works mainly with Ahoy Comics. Yeah. I think he was an editor at the time, and he just sort of said to me one day, I'd really love to hear about an ongoing series from you, Jamie, if you got anything in you. Yeah. Outlaw Nation was what I came up with. I mean, to be fair, I didn't plan it very well because, as I told you already, I don't do that kind of thing. So I'd only have the vaguest idea of, who the characters were and where it might all go. But I did a lot of fondness for Story Johnson, the lead character in that, and the whole Johnson family. They were some nice little archetypes there that I could really enjoy playing with, and it was perhaps the wrong time for it. We were moving into a new millennium, and everybody was looking forward, and I was kind of looking a little bit backward with that. There was a lot of sort of tropes from old fiction and stuff that maybe people didn't pick up on. Not as many people from the comics world who I would have liked to have done were able to pick up on and enjoy. But I just loved what Goran Sudjica did with the art as well. Favorite covers, the whole thing. I just enjoyed myself with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you said you would have loved to do more. Was that something you kind of had in mind, like to get some more issues in?
Well, it could have just carried it. The idea was that it just chugged along, and carried on going. But sales weren't good enough for DC at that point.
Yeah.
And to be fair, they did say round about issue 15 or something, well, we can probably run to 4 more issues if you want to tie up a storyline or something. So in a fit of pique, I just killed everybody at the end of
it. That's just out of spite. And then it ends. The final panel is just, guess what? You're not going to believe it. It's a bottle of Guinness. Did anyone see that coming? Nah, it's such a shock as well. It was such rich storytelling, and then the fork and knife next to it to try and cut you, of course, like you touched on there. Yeah, absolutely. You're working Outlaw Nation. I still think it's fantastic. It's one of my favorite series of all time. A review might be coming soon, everyone, because I'll just go up and get it because I definitely have to talk about it. But yeah, absolutely. And so another series that you got to do quite a bit of work on was 2000 AD. And so I believe you got to do some Future Shocks. Is that who you started out with?
Oh, yeah, a couple Future Shocks. So I didn't do very much for 2000 AD at all, unlike most other
you did DR and Quinch,
British writers who went to America. Yeah, I did. I did, what was it called? Something stupid. DR and Quinch's problem page.
Yeah.
That was the only thing that I did on DR and Quinch, and I didn't really take it seriously, to be honest.
I imagine you were just messing around for that entire job. You're like, yeah, all right, whatever, this happens.
Well, it was, wasn't it? It was just a joke. It was a half-page joke or something each time you did it. But yeah, I never really got into the 2000 AD milieu.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, like you say, I did do a couple of Future Shocks and cut my teeth with those, and they were fun. Yeah, they were fun. But again, I found them a little bit restrictive. It's very short, 5 or 6 pages or something like that, which seems like a lot, but when you actually try it, you can do little more than tell a joke in that length of time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I can see that there, but like I still think I think I saw some of your pages that you put. I think didn't you do like DR and Quinch particular pages for some of them, or would it be correct in saying so?
You might be right.
It's probably so long ago.
So like damn Guinness I've drank, and
you have to get off.
It's dissolved my memory cells.
You can see the cup in the background there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so another British staple you got to do some amazing work on. It was Captain Britain, and like I know, like one of the reasons I wanted to get this interview because I know so many people are huge fans of your work. Like I had on PJ Holden, who said and for those who don't know, he's a 2000 AD artist who's doing brilliant stuff right now. But he said the reason he got into comics was because he read your Captain Britain, your and Alan Moore's Captain Britain. He said, all right, I want to do comics. So like your work has inspired plenty of people. So Captain Britain, what was it like getting to work on that?
I'm sure Alan Davis probably contribution to Captain Britain probably also helped PJ with his
his well, your writing can't have gone amiss, I have to say.
No, that's really kind of PJ to say that. I appreciate it. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea really. That was the first sequential work that I ever did. So I mean, I had a lot of help from Alan Davis on that, really, in the storytelling, that
was your first
side of it.
Like that was your first sequential work you've ever done?
Yeah.
Oh wow. And so was that kind of daunting working on a marathon?
I mean, I did a couple of Doctor Who stories. I think they were after.
Yeah. Was that daunting at all, getting to work on something like that?
I was just arrogant and stoned, I suppose, most of the time. So I wasn't really daunted. I was, it was better than driving taxis, I thought, so. And
the Guinness was great. It helped. It worked in your favor.
Guinness.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't imagine that hurt. And I know, like Animal Man was like you did quite a few issues of that. Like, was there somewhere?
Yeah, Animal Man. That was straight after Hellblazer.
Oh wow, really? Like
pretty much. And that came about completely accidentally. I was living briefly in Liverpool at the time, and I just remember Tom Pyer, who was the editor on Animal Man at the time, and he was phoned me up and he said, "Jamie, I'm in the shit." He said, whoever it was, who was doing it?
Grant
Rick
Morrison?
Veitch's brother. No, Tom Veitch.
Oh, right.
Tom Veitch was writing it, I think. Rick Veitch's brother. And he said, "Tom's quitting. I'm stuck. I haven't got a writer. What am I going to do?" And he said, "Will you do it?" And I said, "Tom, I know nothing about Animal Man. I've no idea. I've never read an Animal Man story. What the hell is he?" And he said, I'll bundle you a few issues together. Don't worry, I'll handle the continuity. He said, "Just will you do it?" And I love Tom. He's a great bloke.
Yeah.
And I just thought, why not? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I said, "Yes, I'll do it, Tom. I'll do 6 issues. How's that?" And I ended up doing a lot more than that. And that was great. I really, really enjoyed that. That felt to me like the first time that, in a way, that I got that sort of I don't know, that comics sensibility, not in terms of humor, but in just, you know, what comics were. And it was kind of a light relief, particularly after Hellblazer. I didn't have half so much invested in those characters because they were all invented before I came along. You know, there was a whole sort of cast list up and ready to work with, and I just had to put my own spin on it, which I always do anyway, because I don't really pay attention to what everybody else did. So it's going to be, you know, my own take. And I had a great deal of fun with it, and eventually I got it started to get a bit tired, it felt to me, you know, so I walked away from it. But you know, no, Animal Man was great fun, and again some great covers from Brian Bolland. And Steve Pugh on
I was about to say
Steve working with Steve is a delight.
Steve is a fantastic artist.
You know, he does, and you know, his work has developed so much, you know, but even, you know, back then I just love what he did with it. He's just got such a feel for character. So that's what drives me, you know, and I can see that it drives him as well.
Yeah, and I know you also did a one shot of Man Bat. I believe it was a one shot, or maybe it was a couple of issues.
It was like a little what was the thing called, prestige format?
Oh yeah, like 48 issues.
Two 48-page issues.
Yeah,
it was.
And who would win, Animal Man or Man Bat? Because, you know, it's Animal Man. He deals with animals, and then Man Bat.
Funny thing was the Man Bat thing. That was another DC editor just phoning me up.
That's how you get most of your jobs.
Yeah, because I'm, you know, I can't say no. That's how you got the interview.
Yeah.
Same way, because I'm not very good at saying no. Leave me alone.
And the blackmail help and having your grandchildren.
That's it, the grandchildren in the
grandchildren
basement.
in the basement downstairs knocking. That was a bit more,
right.
But you were kind of like, oh well.
But yeah, but Man Bat, that was Art Young. He said, Jamie, I reckon there's a character kicking around in the DC universe that you might be able to do something with, and I think I can get my hands on it if you'd like to. And I said, what? And he said, Man Bat. And I said, Batman. And he said, no, Man Bat. I said, what's Man Bat, for Christ's sake? And he sort of roughly sketched in what he thought it was. And he said, I've forgotten the artist's name, John.
John. Oh, Bolland or no, something like that.
Not Bolland.
No, I know. Yeah, I'll look it up. Actually,
look it up while we're talking.
Yeah.
Bolton.
Bolland.
John Bolton, of course. Yeah. He said John Bolton wants to paint it. So I said, yeah, okay, we'll do that then. So I just read a couple of issues of Man Bat from way back.
Yeah.
Basically, what he was, some sort of deformed scientist or something. I forget the actual raison d'etre for him. But it was something like that. And so I started to write a story, and then Art came back and said, I've talked to John, because we weren't going to have Batman in it at all.
Oh, really?
There was not going to be, Batman was something we weren't supposed to play around with, you know, in our neck of the woods, because we'd spoil it or something, you know. But John Bolton thought it was his big chance to paint Batman, and really wanted Batman in it. So I had to put Batman in it. And then it took John about 5 years to finish painting the damn thing. So I was bored stupid with the idea of it by the time it came out. It was a good piece of work when it eventually came.
Yeah,
I was,
definitely
pleased with it, and it's a nice thing to have on your resume, because it looks gorgeous.
Yeah, and Man Bat's fantastic.
But you know, all of these, you know, I'm sure to people outside the business, everything seems planned and organized, and you know, there's all these razor sharp intellects sort of coming up with all these concepts and putting them together, stitching it neatly together, etc. But it's not. It's just random, and you blurt it out onto the page and hack away at it until it comes into some kind of shape. Then you give it to somebody in another, you know, continent or town or whatever to play around with, add their, you know, line and color and all that stuff to it, and then it comes back to you and think, oh, well, that don't work anymore because he's done that when I thought he'd do that. Now I've got to change these words, and, you know, so there's all of this going on. And like I say, that was a bit of a long, protracted experience, Man Bat, but we got there in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And so he's one of my favorite Batman villains. But are you aware of the Batman villain Condiment King? I take it you're not. No, no one I interview ever is. He's the best Batman villain. His whole shtick is that he shoots ketchup and mustard guns. So I assume that's going to be your next comic.
Sounds pretty harmless.
No, it's such a great metaphor for human greed. You're not looking at it close enough.
Okay.
No, like when you see.
I'm pretty sure I've always been known as a shallow sort of a person.
Yeah, when you look at Condiment King, he's just a threatening villain, and I think he just sums up everything wrong with the world by shooting ketchup and mustard at people. So,
but he's probably Tom Pyre's favorite Batman villain.
Yeah,
and sort of stuff.
Yeah, and then I assume he loves Guinness because he's a madman. He's a bad person. So I mean, I assume that's his thing. But yeah, so the last comic of yours I want to touch on before we finish up. I knew I just had to bring this up. It's Hell Eternal. This was a one shot you did, and it was fantastic. It was a one shot you did with sorry, his name's slipped me. Sean Phillips. Yes,
Sean Phillips.
He's doing some brilliant stuff now.
Oh, Sean's great.
And so what was it like getting to work on that story, Hell Eternal?
Hell Eternal, that was a weird one. It's based on real story.
Is it?
Yeah, it was something I read in the newspaper.
Oh, wow, I didn't know it was based on a true story.
Yeah. I mean, basically there was these three sort of youngsters flirting with neo-Nazism in the UK. From the newspaper story was that they went to America, two of them wound up dead in a shooting range somewhere, and another one had killed themselves in a car. So I thought, well, what the hell made that happen?
Yeah.
And invented a story to explain it.
Wow.
It was nearly a movie, actually, that one, but
really?
It didn't happen in the end. No, guy who was going to direct it in the production company actually hired a researcher to go and talk to all the families and do all the background and stuff like that. I've got a big file somewhere of what they found out. This was after the story was completed.
Yeah.
And they did all this research for the movie. And it was even darker than I'd imagined myself.
Wow. If it's darker than you imagined, well, then that means it's bad.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love that cover that Sean did.
Oh, yeah.
It's a brilliant cover.
Yeah, absolutely. Hell Eternal.
Sean is, I mean, I just love Sean's art.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe that was like a one shot. Would it be correct in saying so?
Yeah, I think that was however many pages. I mean, it had a little square spine, so it must have been more than your average.
Yeah.
I think it was 48 or maybe 96. I can't remember now.
Yeah, absolutely. And so looking back at all your works, is there any work in particular that you're maybe most fond of, or is it all like equal? Like you love them all equally? Like choosing a grandchild.
Like children in this.
Which I might make you choose your favorite grandchild, depending on which.
They're all ugly little monsters in one way or another, but you gotta love them. The same applies to stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I mean any Hellblazer stuff. That Constantine is always close to my heart.
Yeah.
2020 Visions, I was quite pleased with that, especially as it nearly came true last year.
Yeah,
luckily the first arc in 2020 Visions is all about a plague, and it was 2020.
We're very lucky you're not a mind reader. We just actually.
I don't know. Sometimes I feel very guilty actually, because a lot of stuff that I thought about the future 25 years ago is all around us now, and very nice.
Yeah, I'm sure it's constantly.
So I kind of think maybe I should have been a bit more optimistic in my fiction, and maybe then I'd be able to inhabit a reasonably sane universe now.
Yeah, optimism isn't a good color
monstrosity that I'm buried in. And
if only you didn't drink.
If you realised it, yeah.
Yeah, if you drank Guinness, we wouldn't be here. But because you didn't drink,
I'd have a much more cheery outlook.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, I mean, God made a Guinness so the Irish wouldn't take over, is what it's what Longton said. Personally, I don't believe. I think we'd find some other alcohol. Yeah, absolutely. So my last couple of questions just regarding writing. Have you noticed improvement as a writer? Like, do you look back at some of your like early, even Constantine work to your now, like your novels? Do you notice improvement as a writer? And do you like look back some early work and say, "Oh, I could have done this, or I should have done that"? Or
I hardly ever look at it.
No, you can't. Is it like
there's a lot of things that I haven't. I mean, most. Now and again, something crosses my path, and I'm forced to look at it again.
You're like,
but
no.
I've got this it's a weird phobia. I mean, it's not because I think it's bad; it's because it might be.
Yeah.
I mean, with my sort of 68-year-old head on, and all the experience in between, looking back at it, I think people say it was good, they enjoyed it, but. Are they right? Are they just blowing smoke at my ass? I lack confidence on some level, perhaps. So I really don't look at it. One day I will, maybe when I'm laid up in the nursing home or something like that, I'll get somebody to bring in all the back issues and wade my way through and relive my life through my fiction or something. But
Yeah.
I do hardly ever go back and look at it.
Really?
But yes, I mean, to the extent, in fact, that what was that character called? There was some DC character that I wrote a 10-page story of, and somebody put a couple of pages of it on Twitter or Facebook or something. And
Yeah.
I looked at it and I thought, it sounds like me.
You didn't know.
It sounds like me, but I never wrote that character. Did I do that? No, I didn't do that. And I thought, it's somebody writing like me, surely. I thought, it's not too bad. It's okay, but I just have no recollection of writing.
Wow.
And that, I'm sure that would happen. It's a thing, you know, you write a lot of words in a life, even when it's just panels in comics. And my memory is not the best, obviously. I mean, somebody like Moore, I expect he could probably quote every sentence and comma that he's ever put together, because he was always like that. You know, when I used to hang about with him, you'd go around his house of an evening when we were teenagers and get stoned, and he'd tell you the entire plot of the novel that he was reading or something like that, almost word for word, so that, you know, a few months later you'd pick up the book, start to read it, you think, I'm sure I've read this before. Oh no, I haven't. Moore's told me about it.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm sure I must have developed, and my prose style has certainly developed and changed. And you know, I'm a different person to who I was then. Anyway, you know, I know more about the world and the people in it, perhaps. So yes, definitely, it's an ongoing process. It's an evolution.
Yeah, definitely. And so another question I want to ask you, what's your dream comic book, or just dream book in general? Or are you happy, you know, kind of working on your own stuff? Is there any character you'd like to work on that you had never got a chance to? Or
no, I always prefer to make my own up.
Yeah,
whenever I've been given a company-owned character to work with, I've always used them as a soapbox, basically, to express, through which to express my own current preoccupations.
Yeah.
You know, whatever's going on in my life ahead at the moment, then I'll think, okay, he wants me to write an Animal Man story. How can I bring some of my own fascination, and not fascination is the wrong word, preoccupation with the environment and the shit that's happening to the planet and so on. How can I bring that into it?
Yeah.
Animal Man will do. Animal Man, there's my way into that. You know, so I use that aspect of myself. You know, yeah.
No, you just put it perfectly there.
Yeah, I don't, you know, I much prefer to make it up though, from, you know.
Absolutely. I can definitely see that there.
And then you have that whole blank page terror thing to get over, you know.
Oh,
you know, that's the hard part.
Copy and paste
artists
the
don't
word.
understand that, you know. Artists always say, oh, writers, you know, why do writers get so much attention and so on and so forth? The art's the major part of comics. It's not. The two things are equal.
Yeah.
But the writer's the poor sod that starts with the blank sheet of paper, you know, with nothing.
Definitely.
There is nothing there until the writer fishes it out of his brain, puts it down, and then you pass the idea to the artist, and the artist takes it on board and enhances that idea and combines it with your words and your ideas, and it becomes a synergy, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Greater than the sum of its parts. It becomes a new thing when you put it all together.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I think you just put it perfectly there. And I agree with you, writers and artists, like they're all equal and they should like be, you know, equally treated.
You can't do one without the other. I mean, if I could draw, different story. By artists, we don't need you, you know.
And then there'd just be Guinness in the background of all of your stories.
That's it, yeah.
The world would be better for it. But absolutely, my last and final question, because I've taken up so much of your time. If anyone was looking to become a writer or just get into writing, what advice would you have for them?
Sit down and do it, one word after the other, until you get to the end.
You just put it perfectly there.
You got to do it. You got to learn as you go along. You got to forget what other people have written that you've loved. Find your own voice. Listen to your own voice. That's the thing. Your own voice is there. You can write like somebody, or you can write like you, with respect to all the people that have informed your understanding through writing. So I would say, just sit down somewhere quiet, write something. Don't do it every day. You don't have to write every day. That's nonsense. This nonsense that goes around the internet from all these gurus, writing gurus that crop up all over Twitter and everywhere else. You must do this, the 10 rules for being a writer. It's all crap.
Yeah.
The only thing you got to do is sit down, link your brain through your fingers on the keyboard to the screen, to the sheet of paper or whatever, and get something down that's true and honest. Even if it's the silliest ass comic book character ever, put something of yourself in there that's true and real, and people will recognize that it's true and real, and that will make the character work for them, because hey, it is. We all share something on this planet. All this living beings share that experience, and if you can just find just little tiny things, I can't give examples, you just got to put something of yourself in there that's genuine, and people will recognize that. And that would be my best advice to a writer. Be honest, just be clever, be funny, be all of those things. Use the longest words you can find if you really want to. It's not necessary, but do punctuate it cleverly, or don't punctuate it. Doesn't matter. Just communicate and be real.
And that's advice, everyone, from the legendary Jamie Delano. And he's definitely done something right. So I'd recommend listening to that. Jamie, it's been such a pleasure chatting to you. I'll talk to you a little bit off air. Before we finish up, are you on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, anywhere people can go check?
Twitter, you can find me. Facebook, I loathe and despise. I was on it, but not anymore. The rest of it, I just don't know what it is. Twitter's good. I'm happy to be there. On every so often I say something. And
you're Jamie. His at will be in the description, everyone.
Just Jamie Delano, at Jamie Delano.
Yeah, and you have a website, I believe.
Yes, yeah, I've got a couple actually, but it's what is it? Leepusbooks.co.uk.
Yeah.
And jamiedelano.co.uk.
Yeah. The link for those, everyone, will be down in the description. Any books or anything you'd like to promote before we finish up?
Yeah, just go to the Leepus Books website and buy my novels. If anybody would be kind enough to do that, I'd be very grateful, because not many people do in the grand scheme of things, and it's always nice to talk to new people. So they're all available either directly from me or through Amazon and all the rest of the pirates out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone, make sure to go pick up all of Jamie's books. Like I said, link will be down in the description.
You can even get there's even via my Leepus Books website, you can even get a collected edition of the Outlaw Nation stories, all in black and white, but it's in a massive Bible thick.
Oh wow, fantastic.
Hardcover.
Yeah, so everyone make sure to go pick that up. There'll be a link for that down in the description. It sounds fantastic. I'd highly recommend.
But only if you're in this country, because the fees to send it anywhere else in the world make it absolutely ludicrous. So
well, you have that comic book cash money. You're loaded, I assume.
I don't. Well, it's not me. It's the people that have got to buy it.
Oh yeah.
pay for the book and for the shipping. Which is about twice as much as the value of the book.
Absolutely,
off put by the weight of it, but no, it's all there. Please feel free, go and have a look. There's a few other little bits of prose writing of mine on the website as well. Just sort of little things that I do now and again when the Guinness lets me out of its evil grip and allows me to the keyboard. So
he very rarely does it, everyone. Normally, you should all highly recommend you come. Jamie, it's been such a pleasure chatting to you. You've definitely earned your grandkids back. I think that's fair to say. You can even have them all back. Because I'm very nice. I'll let them out of basement after this. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. You follow me over on Twitter at SamboGizmo1. Please make sure to like and subscribe. As always, go check out all of Jamie's work, which I'll highly recommend. Links in the description for all of that. As always, if possible, please make sure to donate to the National Deaf Children's Society. There'll be a link for that in the description. If you have the means, it would be much appreciated. But if not, then that's no worries. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you on the
Thanks, everybody.
And stay safe and go check out Jamie's work. Jamie, it's been such a pleasure. I'll talk to you a little bit off air. But yeah, so bye, everyone. See you all later. Bye.